2181 Inside the Primordial Realm. Upon hearing Dong Ye's command, the Shadow Army began its fight with the guards of the Primordial Realm.
We cannot let that crazy bastard open the Primordial Realm and let the criminals inside loose.
The guards fought with desperate ferocity, as though not only their own lives, but the lives of their families, hung in the balance. The Primordial Realm housed countless dangerous and heinous criminals, and none of them dared even to imagine what would happen if these criminals were set free in the Nine Heavens. Meanwhile, upon reaching the entrance of the Primordial Realm, Yuan poured his spiritual energy into the ancient key, activating it. Then, without the slightest hesitation, he drove it into the waiting keyhole. The sealed doors opened, causing the entire ground to tremble.
Let's go.
Yuan entered the Primordial Realm with Mu Xuelian following behind. Once Yuan and Mu Xuelian's figures disappeared into the Primordial Realm, the doors closed again.
What? They didn't fully open the Primordial Realm and instead went inside.
The guards were left dumbfounded by the unexpected development, as they thought Yuan was there to release the criminals.
Who the hell are you bastards, and what is your goal here? Do you have any idea what you've done?
The 7th-level God Ascension expert roared at Dong Yi, his opponent.
We are the Shadow Army, and we are here to piss off the Celestial Emperor.
Dong Yi laughed out loud.
The evil god Shadow Army?
The guards instantly recognized their infamous name.
Huh, kill us then. Let's see what will happen afterward.
Dong Yi shook his head and said.
Although I told them to kill you guys, we're not really going to kill you. Do you think we aren't aware that the Celestial Emperor is tracking your lives with a life tablet, and that if we kill you, it would immediately alert him? We won't kill you for now, but we will destroy your physical body in case you try anything.
In the middle of their fight, 3 of the guards, who were Shadow Army spies, suddenly betrayed the other 7.
What the fuck are you 3 doing? They must be spies. Do you think you'll get away with this?
With the betrayal and the Shadow Army's overwhelming might, the fight ended in the blink of an eye. The Shadow Army destroyed the guards' physical bodies but left their souls alone so that the life tablet tracking their lives wouldn't activate.
Great job, everyone. However, we're far from done,
said Dong Yi. He proceeded to use his memory-stealing abilities on the guards, stealing their identities.
The Celestial family does random inspections, and we must be ready for them when that happens,
he said afterward.
Yes, Commander.
Meanwhile, Yuan and Mu Xuelian appeared inside the Primordial Realm.
What is this place?
Mu Xuelian murmured, her eyes wide with curiosity and disbelief as she studied their surroundings. Above them stretched a pitch-black sky, where streaks of crimson lightning slithered like serpents through the void. The land was even more dreadful, a desolate plain of scorched earth, fractured with countless cracks, as though it bore the aftermath of an ancient apocalypse. Yet, despite the dark skies, the red lightning appeared frequently enough to constantly illuminate the world. Cough cough. Mu Xuelian suddenly started coughing.
The air outside was already awful, but in here it's even worse. The atmosphere feels suffocating,
she exclaimed, raising her hands to cover her mouth. Yuan faced her and shrugged.
I suggested you not follow me in here earlier, but you wanted to be stubborn.
He looked at the sky and sighed.
But this place is definitely very tragic. Not only does this place lack spiritual energy, but the chaotic essence is at least 10 times denser than outside. There's no way any cultivator can survive in this environment. Why did you want to come here?
Yuan shook his head and said.
No, there are definitely people living in here. I can sense someone not too far away from us. You're using divine sense? Aren't you worried that you'll exhaust your spiritual energy? You can't replenish it in this place, after all.
Mu Xuelian asked.
I don't have any issues replenishing my spiritual energy, since I can refine the chaotic essence in this place. Chaotic essence is what you're sensing right now, and it cannot be refined by humans. As Lord Shiva said, you're not human.
Mu Xuelian stared at him with a dumbfounded face.
So what's next?
She asked a moment later.
Ask for directions.
He answered, his gaze shifting toward the presence he had already sensed. Just as Yuan began to take flight, Mu Xuelian suddenly shouted.
Wait.
Yuan turned around to see Mu Xuelian glaring at him from the ground.
Oh right, you cannot replenish your spiritual energy, so it'd be wise to save it for when you truly need it.
Yuan made a gesture toward her figure, and the next moment, Mu Xuelian's body lifted off the ground and flew beside him.
Thank you,
she said. Yuan silently nodded before flying away with Mu Xuelian. They flew for hours without encountering so much as a single tree, or any sign of life at all. Some time later, Yuan halted before a half-destroyed mountain, its upper half completely gone, while the remaining portion was riddled with cracks, as though it might collapse into ruin at any moment.
Wait here.
Yuan instructed Mu Shuolian before striding toward the lone cave in the distance. When he was halfway there, a silhouette emerged from its depths. When the figure finally stepped out of the cave, it was revealed to be a gaunt, middle-aged man. His limbs were so frail and thin they seemed as though they might snap under the mere weight of his own stance. Yet, his eyes were filled with life and killing intent. Seeing Yuan's healthy appearance, the man frowned and said,
There's nothing for you to take here.
Yuan responded with a calm smile.
I'm just here for directions.
2182 Inside the Primordial Realm, 2.
You're here to ask for directions?
The skinny man wore a dumbfounded look on his face after hearing Yuan's words. He focused on Yuan's appearance again. In the Primordial Realm, due to its chaotic environment, having a healthy appearance was a privilege accessible only to the most powerful individuals and families. But what truly set Yuan apart from the ordinary dwellers of the Primordial Realm was the vast reservoir of spiritual energy within him. Though he tried to conceal it, those who had long been starved of such energy could instinctively sense its presence. Yet a privileged background did not mean one was above resorting to robbery. In the Primordial Realm, where resources were scarce and the law of the jungle reigned supreme, even the lofty could be driven to desperate means. In fact, it was usually the most powerful individuals who took advantage of their privilege.
Who were you looking for? The Azure clan.
Yuan calmly answered.
The
The man's eyes widened in shock and disbelief at the mention of the Azure clan, as though he had just laid eyes on a ghost.
You're seeking the Azure clan? Get lost. How dare you toy with me?
The man roared, slashing the air with his arm. Yuan tilted his head, his expression puzzled.
What makes you think I'm joking? I'm being serious. Nonsense. Nobody in this world would willingly seek out the Azure clan. Not even the insane. I'm not insane, but I'm seriously looking for the Azure clan.
Yuan shrugged.
And no, I don't know why you're looking for the Azure clan, but I want no involvement.
Without another word, the skinny man turned around and walked back inside the cave, his figure disappearing into the darkness.
It seems finding the Azure clan will take more effort than I expected.
Yuan sighed. He turned to leave, heading back toward Mu Shuolian. But after only a few steps, he halted, a strange sensation prickling across his back, forcing him to turn around. When Yuan turned, he found the skinny man, who had vanished into the cave, now standing behind him, a dagger pressed firmly against his back.
What is the meaning of this?
Yuan asked, his voice calm and steady.
Impossible.
The man muttered, disbelief etched across his face. Ignoring Yuan's words, he lashed out again, this time with even greater force. However, Yuan had no intention of simply standing still, even if the strike posed no threat to him. In a swift motion, he twisted his body, extended his arm, and clamped his hand firmly around the man's neck, lifting him into the air.
How? You're just a mere, true immortal.
The skinny man shouted. Despite his frail appearance, he was a cultivator at the first level of God Ascension. In his mind, it was impossible for an immortal to withstand his strike.
I don't think I've done anything deserving of this backstab.
Yuan said. After snapping out of his daze, the skinny man laughed out loud.
You speak like someone from the outside. This is the Primordial Realm. Do I need any reason to attack someone so defenseless?
Yuan narrowed his eyes and said.
I'll give you a chance to live. Tell me where I can find the Azure clan, and I'll spare your life for your offense.
The man opened his mouth, not to speak, but to spit.
Hack 2.
He snarled, hurling the glob straight at Yuan's face. Yuan calmly blocked the spit with spiritual energy.
Ha ha! What a waste of spiritual energy.
Without a word, Yuan clenched his fist, crushing the man's neck. However, the man wasn't dead yet. As a God Ascension cultivator, unless Yuan destroyed his soul, he would remain alive. Even so, in the Primordial Realm, where cultivation resources were almost non-existent, reconstructing a body was impossible for the weak. Yuan nonchalantly tossed the body on the ground and returned to Mu Shuolian's side.
Quite ruthless.
She remarked.
He struck first.
Yuan replied calmly.
Besides, most who dwell in this realm are criminals deserving of death. So what now? Look for someone else who can help us.
Yuan looked around and continued a moment later.
Unfortunately, I don't sense anyone else nearby, so we can only wander around until we encounter someone.
After picking up Mu Shuolian, Yuan flew away and continued their search. Although that man was weak for a God Ascension cultivator, he still had some power in him. The Primordial Realm hasn't opened since the Primordial Era, so how did that man cultivate, much less reach God Ascension? Yuan pondered as they traveled. He couldn't fathom how cultivators survive in this environment. Also, there was the existence of exiles, people who are allowed outside for a chance of freedom through the Supreme Heaven's legacy. Sometime later, Yuan stopped moving when he noticed a drastic change in the atmosphere.
Do you sense that too?
Mu Xuelian asked with her brows slightly raised. He nodded.
Something is about to happen.
Yuan murmured, tilting his head toward the blackened sky, where the lightning serpents were converging upon a single point. Moments later, he could sense several presences appearing from a distance, all of them rushing in their direction.
People are coming.
A few minutes later, 4 cultivators appeared before Yuan and Mu Xuelian. Unlike the skinny man they previously encountered, these 4 cultivators appeared a little healthier. 2 of them were true immortals, while the other 2 were at the first and second levels of God Ascension.
Scram if you don't want to die,
said the second-level God Ascension cultivator.
Why don't you scram?
Said the other God Ascension cultivator. The 2 true immortals didn't say anything, but it was clear they also had no intention of leaving.
I will not warn you again,
said the second-level God Ascension cultivator.
Let's not be too greedy. There are only a few of us here, so we can share it. Even if you fight and defeat us all, you might lose more than you gain,
said one of the true immortals. The second-level God Ascension cultivator frowned and fell silent to ponder. 2183 Inside the Primordial Realm, 3. As the second-level God Ascension cultivator pondered, his gaze fell upon Yuan and Mu Xuelian. Although Yuan was only a true immortal, his appearance and abundant spiritual energy implied that he came from a powerful family. However, what truly surprised him was Mu Xuelian's existence. There were many God Ascension realm cultivators within the Primordial Realm, but those who had as much spiritual energy as Mu Xuelian were incredibly rare, including those with a much higher cultivation than hers. Besides that white-haired woman, I can defeat the others, but it'll exhaust too much energy. Since there are only a few of us, there's no need to risk it. The second-level God Ascension cultivator didn't acknowledge it openly, but he decided not to chase the others away. Minutes later, the massed lightning within the clouds erupted, unleashing a single devastating bolt that descended like a heavenly judgment. The bolt was so intense it ripped through the very fabric of space, leaving behind a rift that seethed with turbulent spiritual energy. Seeing this, the cultivators immediately began absorbing the spiritual energy, replenishing what little reserve they had left. Yuan and Mu Xuelian watched with intrigue, as they'd never seen anything like this before. So this is why that cultivator wanted everyone else to leave. Yuan thought to himself, finally understanding the situation. However, he still had questions, such as where the spiritual energy was coming from. Why aren't those 2 cultivating and just watching? Are they mocking us? The cultivators wondered when they realized Yuan and Mu Xuelian were idling not far away. They might attack us while we're cultivating. Worried that Yuan and Mu Xuelian might attack out of nowhere, the cultivators remained vigilant. A few minutes later, Yuan suddenly spoke, startling the others.
Hey, I have a question. Do you know where I can find the Azure clan?
The cultivators snapped their heads toward Yuan, their faces frozen in disbelief. Yet after a brief silence, they quickly averted their gazes, acting as though they had never heard his words at all. Seeing this, Yuan started to absorb the spiritual energy from the rift at a terrifying rate, shocking the cultivators. What the hell is that insane absorption rate? At this rate, he'll absorb all of the spiritual energy in minutes, they cried inwardly.
If nobody answers, I will continue to absorb the spiritual energy,
Yuan said.
I will answer,
one of the true immortals hastily said. However, before he could answer Yuan's question, a powerful presence emerged nearby, swiftly closing in on their location. Even before the figure came into view, an aggressive voice thundered through the air.
If anyone still dares to absorb that spiritual energy after this warning, I'll skin you alive when I get there in a minute. This presence, it's a 5th-level God Ascension cultivator.
Everyone there subconsciously halted absorbing the spiritual energy, and the true immortals even prepared to flee, as this 5th-level God Ascension cultivator seemed to have plenty of spiritual energy just by how he was willing to use voice transmission.
Before you leave, can you answer my question?
Yuan said, snapping them out of their daze.
Screw you. If I cannot acquire any more spiritual energy, what's the point of answering you and offending the Azure clan?
Then, the true immortal turned around and flew away. The other true immortal also left silently. As for the God Ascension cultivators, they exchanged glances before turning to look at Mu Xuelian and said,
If the 3 of us work together, we might be able to deal with this bastard.
Mu Xuelian raised an eyebrow and asked,
Why should I work with you? This is your problem, not mine.
The second-level God Ascension cultivator frowned and responded,
Why the hell are you here, if not for the spiritual energy? We were just passing by when this phenomenon happened. I don't need the spiritual energy, anyway.
She calmly responded.
You don't need the spiritual energy?
Not just the second-level God Ascension cultivator, but even the other guy trembled in anger after hearing her words. In the primordial realm, nearly every cultivator was starved for spiritual energy. For someone to claim they had no need of it was like boasting of never needing food because they are always full and have never starved before, while standing before the homeless, gaunt with hunger. The God Ascension cultivators wanted to tear Mu Xiulian apart after hearing her words, but they controlled themselves, as they would gain nothing from it, not to mention the incoming threat.
If you want the spiritual energy, you can fight for it.
Without hesitation, the second-level God Ascension cultivator began absorbing the spiritual energy again. Seeing this, the other cultivator also followed.
Courting death.
The fifth-level God Ascension cultivator arrived at the scene a few minutes later. Upon his arrival, he immediately unleashed a powerful martial technique at the two who ignored his warning.
This crazy bastard.
The two cultivators hastily stopped their cultivation to block the incoming attack.
Fuck, my spiritual energy.
While they were able to block the attack properly, it had consumed more spiritual energy than what they had absorbed from the rift.
Haha, this is what you fools get for defying my warning. Now die for your sins.
The fifth-level God Ascension cultivator laughed madly as he continued his assault on the other two.
Damn it, I'm not going to waste my spiritual energy on a madman. It's not worth it.
The second-level God Ascension cultivator did not hesitate to run away. Seeing this, the first-level God Ascension cultivator also fled. The fifth-level God Ascension cultivator didn't chase after them. He turned to look at Yuan and Mu Xiulian for a brief moment before ignoring them to absorb the spiritual energy from the rift. However, Yuan also started absorbing the spiritual energy the very next moment.
What the fuck do you think you're doing, you little brat?
Yuan responded with a calm smile.
If you tell me where I can find the Azure clan, I'll let you have all of the spiritual energy here. If not, I don't mind fighting to the death.
2184 Azure clan's location. The man's expression darkened after hearing the name Azure clan.
What did you just say? The Azure clan? Are you insane? How dare you utter their name before me? You must be trying to get me killed.
Yuan narrowed his eyes slightly and responded.
What are you so afraid of? You're not the first person I've asked about the Azure clan, but you all have the same terrified reaction, almost as if you'll die just for talking about them. What nonsense are you spouting? Anyone living in this forsaken world would tremble at their name. Unless you're not from the primordial realm? No, that can't be.
For a brief moment, the man considered the possibility that Yuan had come from the outside, but he quickly dismissed the thought as impossible. After all, the primordial realm has been closed since the primordial realm.
So what if I am from the outside world?
Yuan suddenly said. The man's eyes widened with shock and disbelief.
Are you serious?
The man swallowed nervously, as he couldn't imagine what sort of heinous crime Yuan had committed to force the Celestial Emperor to throw him in an abandoned prison like the primordial realm. Yuan silently nodded in acknowledgement. No wonder his appearance is so clean, but he's only a true immortal. What could he have done to? No, I shouldn't involve myself in his business. He's too dangerous.
Why are you looking for the Azure clan?
The man then asked.
I just have some business with them. Why does it matter to you?
The man frowned and said.
I want no involvement in your search for the Azure clan if you're trying to fight them. If they kill you and discover I was the one who pointed you their way, I'll be as good as dead myself.
Is that why everyone was afraid to tell me the directions? Because they're afraid that I might fight them? Yuan wondered to himself. He then smiled and said.
Don't worry, I'm not going to fight them.
The man pondered for a moment before pointing toward the south and saying.
You can find the Azure clan at the border of the Spirit Tree. Spirit Tree, right? Thanks for the information.
Yuan stopped absorbing the spiritual energy.
Before I leave, I have one more question. Where's the nearest city?
The man then pointed west and said.
There's one a week away in that direction.
Yuan didn't linger and left with Mu Xiulian shortly after. Once Yuan left, the man sighed in relief.
For the first time since the primordial era, someone new has been tossed inside the primordial realm. I can only hope this is just a one-time event.
The man worried over the implications. If the current Celestial Emperor were to make use of the primordial realm again, it could plunge the realm into chaos, disrupting the fragile society and norms its residents had managed to build through many eras. Let's not overthink it and hurry up and consume the spiritual energy before someone else comes. Meanwhile, Yuan and Mu Xiulian sped toward the nearest city, arriving at their destination in under a day of travel. Although the man said it would take a week, he was talking about walking distance since cultivators in the primordial realm only fly when it's an emergency, as it would be a waste. Once they arrived in the city, Yuan used his divine sense to scan the city. He wanted to look for a teleport formation, but he didn't find one even after searching the entire city.
Looks like we will have to go to another city,
Yuan said to Mu Xuelian. Yuan shifted his attention to a nearby pedestrian, who was a young man and a pure mortal.
Hey, can I ask you a question?
The young man turned to face Yuan, and the instant he saw his appearance, shock overtook his face.
How may this lowly one serve you?
He cried, dropping to his knees and kowtowing before Yuan. Yuan raised his eyebrows in a puzzled manner at the young man's unexpected reaction and questioned.
Do you recognize me?
The young man, not daring to raise his head, responded.
No, I do not. Then why are you reacting like that? Because you are a cultivator. He's probably like that because cultivators are rare in the primordial realm. In a world where spiritual energy rarely exists, I highly doubt many would even attempt to become one.
Yu Ning remarked.
That makes sense.
Yuan mumbled, finding Yu Ning's words very logical.
Anyway, I would like to ask you, do you know which city has a teleport formation?
He then asked the young man.
A what?
The young man responded in a confused tone, almost as if he'd never heard of this term.
I don't think teleport formations exist in this world.
Yu Ning suddenly said.
If you think about it, teleport formations can only be activated with spiritual energy. Even if they somehow manage to activate it, they'll still need spiritual energy to teleport.
Yuan became speechless when he realized that he'd overlooked this fact.
Senior Immortal?
The young man spoke when Yuan didn't say anything for some time. Yuan snapped out of his daze and asked.
Then do you know how far away the spirit tree is? The legendary spirit tree, where only the most powerful cultivators go. I'm sorry. While I have heard of its name, I don't know where it's located. I reckon that only powerful cultivators will know, since it's not something us ordinary mortals even dream of.
Is that so? Yuan pondered for a moment before speaking again.
Hey, I have another favor. Can you tell me more about this world? I'll treat you to a meal for your assistance. Really?
Yuan nodded.
I'll even let you choose the restaurant. Let's talk while we eat. Okay.
After a moment of awkward silence, the young man asked.
Is it okay for me to stand up now? Of course. You don't need to be so formal, either. Just treat me like a friendly neighbor or something.
Yuan said. 2185 Primordial Realms 3 Region.
I have never met a cultivator as kind as you, senior brother,
said the young man as he led Yuan to a nearby restaurant.
Are you sure you want to eat at this place?
Yuan asked with a raised eyebrow after seeing the rundown building the young man had brought him to.
Don't let its crummy appearance fool you, senior brother. This shop has some of the best noodles in this city, and the cities nearby. All right, I'll trust you.
Yuan scanned the restaurant with his divine sense just in case the young man was luring him into a trap. Of course, he wasn't worried about being ambushed in the slightest. Fortunately, the restaurant was clear, and he found nothing suspicious. Once they were seated inside, the young man ordered for them.
Boss, let me get 3 large bowls of noodles with meat dumplings. 3 large bowls of noodles with meat dumplings on the way,
said the old man working behind the counter.
Now, what did you want to know about this world? I may look young, but I am quite knowledgeable, if I may say so myself. I even know some things that only cultivators would know,
said the young man in a boastful tone.
You see, I live in a secluded part of this world and only recently began to expand my views, so I don't know much about the situation of the rest of the world. In that case, should I tell you what I know about our world?
Yuan nodded.
Very well.
The young man began.
As you likely already know, we now live in the Primordial Realm, a place once used to imprison criminals during the Primordial era. At first, the criminals fought endlessly among themselves, but after tens of thousands of years of bloodshed, they came to realize they might never leave. So, they ceased their battles and instead turned their efforts toward building a society of their own. Now, the Primordial Realm is controlled by 4 powerful backgrounds: the Zhao family, Chaotic Sect, the Inferno Alchemists, and the Azure clan. Not only do they each rule over the majority of the Primordial Realm, but they are absolute powers that even cultivators cannot defy, especially the Azure clan. Despite having the smallest population amongst the powerhouses, the Azure clan is undoubtedly the strongest in the Primordial Realm. With that said, the Primordial Realm is split into 3 regions. The Realm of Chaos, ruled by the Chaotic Sect. Zhao Province, ruled by the Zhao family. The final region is the Land of Inferno, ruled by the Inferno Alchemists. Although the Azure clan is a powerhouse, they only rule a small area of the Primordial Realm. However, the place they rule is arguably the most important area in this entire world. The Spirit Tree,
Yuan said. The young man nodded and elaborated.
The Spirit Tree is the only place in this world that lets cultivators, well, cultivate. Of course, there are the spiritual rifts, but those are rare and random, so cultivators cannot rely on them. Spiritual rifts? Is that when lightning strikes and tears through space, releasing spiritual energy?
Yuan asked.
Yes, that's what I heard. Unfortunately, I have never personally witnessed it, even with my 20 years of experience.
Yuan then asked.
How spacious is the primordial realm? Let's say I want to get to the other side of the world. How long would that take?
The young man pondered for a moment before responding.
I don't think the primordial realm is that big. From what I've heard through traveling merchants, it could take up to 10 years to travel around the world on foot, so it's probably not that big for cultivators who can fly. Only 10 years on foot? The primordial realm is quite small then. By the way, which region are we currently in? The realm of chaos. I see.
The owner of the restaurant approached the table with their noodles shortly after.
What do you think?
The young man asked.
It's actually delicious. What is this meat? I have never tasted anything like this before.
Yuan remarked as he gazed at the meat dumplings. Before the young man could respond, Ingzi suddenly emerged from Yuan's shadow.
Whoa!
The young man was startled by Ingzi's sudden appearance and stared at her beautiful face with a dazed look.
What's up?
Yuan looked at her. Ingzi pointed at the meat dumpling and said.
I want to taste it. Go ahead.
Yuan handed her a dumpling. After tasting the meat, she responded.
As I thought, I have tasted this meat before. It's from a common beast in the primal expanse. What? Really?
Yuan's eyes widened at this information. Ingzi nodded.
I am certain. I have feasted on them a few times before.
Yuan fell silent to ponder the implications. Beings from the primal expanse can be found in the primordial realm? Just what is this place, anyway, he wondered inwardly.
Anyway, let's order some more. I won't be satisfied with just one.
Yuan gestured at the owner and said.
I want 20 more of this. T20.
The old man's eyes widened. I'll need you to pay up front if you're going to order that much food. Yuan nodded.
How much? Including the 3 bowls I've already served, 23 small chaos coins.
The old man frowned at Yuan's reaction and said.
You don't have the money?
Wait just a minute. Yuan turned to the young man and asked.
Do you have any money on you? What? Don't tell me you actually don't have any money. Then why did you say you'll treat me?
The young man exclaimed.
I do have money. I just don't think they'll work here since I have never heard of chaos coins. Each region has their own currency, but it can be used in other regions,
said the young man. Yuan retrieved some gold coins and showed them to the young man.
What about this? It's gold coins. Gold coins. That's ancient currency.
The young man exclaimed, his eyes wide with disbelief. Congratulations, you have finished listening to the current content.